Where's some of that freshly printed money that China printed in the past 2 weeks been going? USA stock market. Look at the stock market's going through the roof. There's all this money being printed. We just don't have to look at the central government of the US. We also have to look at the other central governments that are printing money. And what does that tell us? That if China's printing money, what does the US gonna do? One of the reasons why the Fed dropped a 0.5 point is because to bail out China. The US government doesn't want China to collapse overnight. We want to slowly demise. Our supply chain would be chaos, right? So they're trying to bail out China by lowering the interest rate here so people borrow money here and go to buy more assets over in China.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Reside Platform Podcast. I'm your host, Suneet Agarwal, and today we have a great friend of the show. Is this your third time on, Steve?
Triple header, brother.
Triple header, yes. The first person to ever be on 3 times. And also, for everybody listening, and Steve, props to you, our most listened episodes, I think you're number 1 and like number 3.
Thank you. You know,
So good job.
We hit a lot of topics too that people want to hear about.
Yes, we hit all the hot topics. So if you're listening,
attention sometimes.
Yes. So if you're listening and you want to know what's really happening in real estate, you have landed on the right episode. Real quick about Steve, 25-year real estate OG, Vegas market, super knowledgeable about everything. Steve, and I've told you this 1,000 times, you're my go-to when I want to know what's happening.
Thanks. Mutual.
Yes.
It's nice to be in the King's Kingdom too. You know, the King is
whatever. The King's Kingdom.
You're in the biggest state. You know, come on, man.
Steve is so nice because he still reminds everybody that for a couple of years I was number 1 in the biggest state. I was number 1 in Cali. Now we're just number 1 in Sacramento, and I'll take it. Right? Plenty happy.
King of Cali, King of Sacramento, whatever. You're still a king. Once a king, always a king.
Thanks, brother. Thanks. So let's get into it. You know, a couple months ago, you and I were talking a bunch on the air and in conversations about the thoughts about this NAR settlement, right?
Right.
And I got all my information from you, just like always. It's been, 2 months now?
Yeah, a little bit. Pretty much.
It's been about 2 months.
Yeah.
What are you seeing with your business, your agents in Las Vegas?
So right now it's kind of funny because the settlement has actually increased commissions. I think it's going to be for a short time because agents and there's so much confusion out there. Agents are picking and choosing on what part of the settlement to do, right? So we're picking the part that's going to increase the commissions, right? And that's what's going on right now. You know, we're going to do this part, but not that part. And that part's going to increase commissions. And that's what we're seeing right now. Plus, we're seeing prices are leveling out. The market's getting a little shaky. So if the sellers get what they want, they're going to pay whatever you want, right? When the prices start dropping, we're going to see that turn away because the sellers are going to go, hey, listen, I don't mind paying that person that commission right there at that price, but I just had to drop my price, $20,000, so I need to drop the commission. Right now, people are getting what they want, and the sellers are happy because they know this is at least the peak of this cycle, whether the cycle is a month or 2 or 3 months, whatever. But they see a slowdown coming. It's also October, November, December. So the sellers are paying whatever you want right now on the buyer side, as long as they get what they want, which could become another problem for future lawsuits with that. So we'll see how that happens. And like we said, like I said from day one, and now NAR is realizing that, and the brokers are realizing that this settlement is just one big trap, right? This is the seeds for future lawsuits. And a lot of the stuff that we're doing right now, or our agents are doing and brokerages are doing right now, are the seeds to future lawsuits and new laws and regulations, because the stuff that's going on right now is actually possibly violating other laws or other stuff that it's not supposed to be going on, but because of the settlement, we're forced to change our business a little bit, which is going to cause more problems. And I mean, look, the state of California, you know this. I mean, it's not even 40 days, and they're already passing laws on the buyer broker agreement that you can only do 90 days in California. I mean, okay, just like I said, it's going to lead to more lawsuits and more laws. And now, do you think they're going to stop at that 90 days? What's next? Oh, most likely. Wait a minute. You're listing properties for 6 months? Wait a minute. We got to limit that to 90 days. Whoa. The buyer broker agreement, you're charging that first time home buyer $24,000 to buy an $800,000 house? Whoa. That's why properties are so expensive. That's why buyers can't get into houses. That's what these politicians are going to come with next. And we gave them ammunition with these buyer broker agreements. Why did California put that law in with the 90 days maximum on the buyer broker agreement?
I have no idea, but when I saw it, I was on a training. I was all, oh, I've heard about this one.
Well, obviously, they're getting too many complaints, so they nipped it in the butt. And we see what's going on right now in every industry. You know, the government's blaming the industry for, oh, it's the grocery stores for high food. It's the cars, it's the car automakers for high car prices. It's the realtors' problem price causing high real estate prices. So this is going to lead to more, nonsense, blaming us for high real estate prices. And I mean, I was surprised that already 40 days in that they're already changing, adding the law. And I'm surprised the California Association of Realtors didn't stop that right away because, that's just the stepping stone. It's not going to stop here. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning. Same with that, buyer broker agreement limiting it to 90 days.
Yeah, 100%. Are you seeing agents struggle with the buyer broker, getting them signed when they meet clients? Are you seeing any challenges?
No. You know why? You don't want to sign it? No problem. You can't force someone to sign it. It's a state law in Nevada. You can't force somebody to sign something. And the settlement cannot override state or federal law.
So you can go to a house and the person says, well, no, I don't want to sign it. And they say, okay, well, I'll show you the house anyways.
I'm not going to break Nevada law. And the settlement says you don't do something that's going to break state law. So Colorado already banned it. So Colorado says you ain't going to force no buyers to sign this. You can't force people to sign this. That right there is a pushback. But also, I like some of these tour agreements, right? I mean, the tour agreements, nobody has a problem signing those. They're not compliant. They're not compliant with the settlement. But NAR hasn't said, no, you can't use them. I mean, it's complete confusion out there, right? So there's a lot of things on the buyer broker agreement that NAR and the MLSs aren't enforcing. And like, for example, some states allow you to amend your buyer broker agreement. The settlement is clear. You can't change the commission once it's on there. Well, the last time I checked, amending means change. So what's going on here? Oh, the lawyer said it was okay. Well, are you lawyer shopping? I mean, because I could get 10 lawyers that say, wait a minute, the settlement says you can't change it, but you guys are amending it. So what's going on here? So if you're not going to follow that part of the settlement, then why do it at all? Right. So how are you going to enforce it saying, hey, you have to get this signed, but wait a minute, you're allowing us to change it? We can't put a range in there. Oh, and by the way, you're allowing these companies to use touring agreements that don't have the commission on there at all. So well, what is the standard here? What are you trying to do here? You can't enforce it over here, but not over here. You can't pick and choose. And that's what's going on right now.
And then there will be just more confusion in the market for everybody.
I don't really call it confusion. People are saying yes or no. And that's it. It's not, but as far as like what MLSs are giving you advice and whatnot, well, hey, if you want an attorney shop and get the answer you want to hear, then yeah, you can, like I see these realtors are telling me, oh yeah, we can amend it. Our attorney in, Texas, or our attorney in Florida, or our attorney in MLS said we could do it. Okay, well, were those the same attorneys that said you could block the commission on the MLS too, that brought the DOJ in? I mean, let's use common sense here. The settlement says you can't do it. So is it legal to do? Yes, of course you can amend the contract. It's legal. But is it adhering to the settlement? Well, not according to most attorneys, but you can find someone that says, hey, you know what? I can argue the point for you. Okay, you're hired.
You can get that letter for $500, guaranteed. Yes. I know a couple of guys are probably writing for half as much, right? But agents are making it happen to get in showings. Let's talk about the overall market right now. Vegas is, I thought, one of the hottest markets in the country, right?
Yeah, real quick, reverse a little bit on that. Here's a perfect example. So we just had an event with one of the top builders in Vegas, and they said that over half of the realtors that come in, because they're asking them for the buyer broker agreement the way they do it before they go to contract, right? Because they don't want the buyer paying all that stuff. Because the builders don't really understand how it works either, right? So this builder who is in charge of all the developments out here for his company, he says half of our new home sales consultants tell us that half of the realtors don't even know about the BBA when they're doing the new home. So they don't. So your question is, half of them don't even know about it. So what? What?
Yeah. I mean, people don't know, and it's shocking. People don't know until they get that one buyer they get every couple of years. Then they got to see if their license is still up, and then wonder how they get paid when they don't see commission in the MLS. Right? That's what's happening.
Well, here's another point. In Vegas, we don't have that problem because in Vegas, we're smart. We put the commissions on the contract. We don't mess with these third-party addendums and all that. So in reality, Las Vegas is, quote, violating the code of ethics because you're not supposed to negotiate the commissions on the contract, right? They still have that, I believe. I don't think that changed. But every one of our contracts from our MLS has the commission on there. So we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry about this, who's paying what. It goes right on our contract.
That's in Nevada, right? That's all of Nevada.
It's Clark County. I'm not sure if Reno does the same thing. Here you go again. Different MLS, different rules. It's a clown show. What would be the best? I mean, the best scenario is quit playing all these games, MLSs, because DOJ is coming for you next. So is the FTC. Put the commissions on the contract. Every MLS should have in their contract a place to put the commissions for the buyer and be done with it. Like every contract in the country should be just like LVRs with the commission on there. So there's no confusion. There's no back and forth. There's no side dealings. Everybody is transparent with who's paying what.
Yep, 100%. Tell me about the Vegas market right now, because I'm super curious. One of my uncles asked me, he wants to sell a house. So I have a listing for you. But yeah, is it busy? And I almost always want to buy someplace down there too, just for fun.
Right. So it's just like every place else. It's not as bad as Florida or Texas, but we are seeing a softening. Prices aren't dropping 20% like they are in parts of the country. They're starting to get a little softer. It's only been a month of price softening. Transactions have been down down greatly for 2 to 3 months. The transactions have been down quite a bit. But the new homes, we're booming on the new homes. I tell my buyers agents, hey, go hit those new homes. You know what? They're apples for apples. They're less than resales. Then you get that the builders are buying down the commission. So you're getting a 3.9, 4.9.
Buy down the rate, yeah.
And they're lowering the price. So you really can't, that. I just did a video on new home inventory in Vegas is the highest since 2008. And it was kind of funny because this new home consultant said, oh, this isn't accurate, blah, blah, blah. Well, about 4 weeks after I did that video, that same new home consultant posted on her social media that they just reduced for other houses to $550,000.
That's so funny, dude. That's so funny. Okay.
No, I didn't call her out, but it was pretty funny. I'm like, listen, you don't want if you're a buyer, get a realtor. Don't listen to these new home people. That's a perfect example right there. I mean, we called it. You can go to these new homes and get some great deals right now.
Yeah. Yes. And you guys have a bunch of that inventory where we really don't hear. And it's, I talked to Preston out in Myrtle Beach too. They got a bunch of new homes out there, right? So those markets are great. Let's take a turn here. Clear cooperation. It's becoming more news stories, more social media posts about, sharing the listing information within the brokerage, how fast you got to get it on the MLS. What's going on there, Steve?
Well, you have the clear cooperation conversation before the settlement and post-settlement. Clear cooperation before the settlement, yeah, you can make the argument, who cares? I mean, you get more exposure, which wasn't really true because when people say they're getting more exposure, let's do a deep dive, okay? I'm trying to sell a car, okay? I have a $20,000 car, let's just say. And I take it down to the college here, and I have 20 people that look at this car. I got 20 people. That's my 20 exposure. If I take that same car down to the middle school here with a bunch of fifth and sixth graders, I had 500 people look at that car. Well, I got more exposure, but who cares? They're not going to be buyers. So we got to get rid of this, oh, you get more exposure stuff to no. Let's find out that exposure, who's really buyers, not just exposure. So the clear cooperation policy now with the settlement and the buyer broker agreement, we're starting to see, I think some of these largest franchises and companies are starting to tell NAR, you better get rid of this now. Right now. And one of the reasons why is because they see this as an opportunity to take some of their market share back from these portals. Because now if they can start sending people to their websites and not going to Zillow, Realtor.com, and Redfin, this can keep this will give them more clout and more market share of these listings. And then also people are saying, oh, you want to get more exposure. Well, let the seller decide that. The seller needs to decide where they want it. And with the new buyer broker agreements and the new settlement, a lot of these portals are charging. Like I pay anywhere from 20 to 35 to 40%. Well, the sellers now are going to pay that. So wait a minute here now. Okay, this is post-settlement. The sellers should have a choice of putting it on other websites that don't have to pay 20 to 40% for those buyer leads, right? Because now technically the buyers are paying that or the sellers are paying for it. So sellers are starting to say, whoa, wait a minute. Why am I on this site that is charging 20, 30, 40% more on commission? That's tens of thousands of dollars that I could save. And for what? Aren't those people going on the MLS too? Aren't those people, how's that getting more exposure? So now could be a possible another lawsuit for NAR because they're forcing sellers to go on websites that are charging without the consumer knowing. So this is going to be a big issue. And in fact, right here, I'm sure you've seen this, NAR tells sellers they don't have to list on the MLS. I mean, if this isn't the end of clear cooperation, I don't know what is. So it looks like NAR is getting ahead of this. So if they do have another lawsuit coming down the pipeline, they're going to say, hey, look, we told these guys not to do it. Well, this puts the blame now on the MLS and companies that are going along with this clear cooperation policy, which now clearly after the settlement, the clear cooperation policy needs to go away because there's too much evidence or allegations of antitrust policy, deceptive marketing practices, and other things that could come out because the consumers are going to be paying more for this extra exposure. Well, is it really extra exposure? And is that extra exposure going to get them more money than what they're going to save by putting it on their own website where the buyers and sellers can call that listing agent or person that listed that house or company direct? That never came up before because, in the MLS, it was pretty much a traditional standard 2.5 anyway, so it didn't matter. Well, now it matters because all that is negotiable and transparent. In fact, I'm getting calls from sellers asking that, not even my sellers.
So if it were to go away, then sellers wouldn't have to list on the MLS. Or the MLSs would not need to have a feed into any other website, right?
The MLSs can do what they want. They can give the feed wherever they want, but they can't force their members to put it in the MLS. Now, if the seller goes, hey, man, I want to see my property on all these sites, well, then, okay, no problem. But what if the seller has a $3 million house and says, hey, look, I don't want to be on these sites. I want to be on your site because I see you're having more targeted buyers and you're going to get me the exposure I want. I don't want a bunch of people looking at my house and getting all this exposure that they're not going to buy the house anyways. They're not even in the market to buy a house. They're not even in my state. So why do I want to pay extra for that exposure that's not going to get me a house? It's like the old days. If I'm trying to sell something in Las Vegas and I use a newspaper in New York, what good is that? You're right. You want to put it in that local. Same thing now. This is new information and new data, new evidence since the settlement. These are things we're talking about when I say, hey, the settlement is a big trap. Well, you better start changing some of these old policies that now could be construed as antitrust or charging the consumers more because you're forcing them to do something that could cost them more money. And many times it is costing more money. And at the end of the day, Give them the choice. If they want it on those websites and they want to have the risk of having to pay more for that, that's on them. Let them do that. A lot of sellers will say, hey, you know what? Let's try your website for 30 days and let's see if I can save some money and get the top dollar. So that's an option too. Put it in the MLS after that. Because if you do the studies and look at it, these portals, the MLS is still the number one place people go. Put your house on a portal, just the portal, see how much action you get, and then put your house in the MLS, see what happens. Boom, it goes like this. So we know where people are going. The MLS is the main source, but a lot of the consumers don't know that, hey, if I go here, I'm going to be paying extra. So
yeah, dude, I didn't know it was about the portals and paying extra. Like, holy smokes, that's wild. Because I mean, that could affect home prices.
Correct. I mean, look, I had a funny one today where not my seller, a seller called me and was all upset, said, hey, why are you the agent on my listing? I didn't list with you, blah, blah, blah. I go, what are you talking about? Yeah, I hit contact agent and I get you. My agent is so-and-so. What are you talking about? Yeah, I went on this portal. I hit contact agent. It's your name. You're not my agent. Well, yeah, I'm not the agent. No, and so he was arguing with me. I go, look, I don't control this, man. And so now sellers are going to start saying, wait a minute. Why is my agent not being contacted? Because I have a deal with my agent. I don't want to have to pay all these fees. I'd rather just go with my agent. So that's fine if you're going to do that, but you have to disclose that to the seller. You have to disclose that to the buyers. Hey, here's the disclosure here. And look, in the environment we're in right now, look at what the FTC is doing to RealPage and Google. I mean, RealPage is a perfect example. What they just did with Invitation Homes. I mean, this is close to that. The buyers and sellers don't know what's going on, but they're starting to investigate more because of the settlement. Wait a minute, I signed this buyer broker agreement, or the seller's like, well, look, I got to pay that buyer's agent, but that buyer's agent got that buyer from this site that was trying to contact you, the listing agent. You don't think that's coming down the pipeline? Come on. We're targets now. Our industry is a target. So now we got to look at all these things and go, hey, we better change this because we know that's coming down the pipeline. And then the listing agent, she was obviously a new agent, contacts me and hits it. Hey, how do I get that? How do I get to be the contact agent? How do I get that? This is my listing. I know you pay, but how do I get that? I go, well, what do you mean? She goes, yeah, well, on my listings, when people call my listings, I want them to contact me. Well, that's not how it works. What do you mean that's not how it works? And she'll even, you can talk to her. It's pretty funny because she was going on for like 2 or 3 minutes. She didn't understand. This isn't right. She was obviously a new agent. And I go, well, where you been? And so she goes, I'm going to tell my broker about this, my office manager. I go, welcome to real estate, girl. But because of this, and the reason why she was calling me is because one of her sellers said, hey, I agreed to list with you, but why is the leads going here? So when these sellers start to realize this, are they going to pay, when they find out, wait a minute, how did you find your agent? Did you go, yeah, I tried to contact, their listing, blah, blah, blah. So that's why clear cooperation policy needs to be changed. Because of the settlement, we have to give sellers the option of trying different avenues first. That's just common sense. That needs to be changed immediately because we know it's going to come down the pipeline.
Yeah. So, I mean, the MLS said to sellers, or the NAR said to sellers, you don't have to post your house on the MLS. They said that. So isn't clear cooperation? Yeah, it's right there. Our sellers, but we can't do that yet. We have to put it on the MLS.
Well, hey, we know that history tells us that NAR and the local MLSs haven't got the best legal advice the past 5-10 years, right? So do we have to do it, or is it, civil disobedience? And hey, if they try and go after us and sue us and we counter them, and there goes to a discovery process, and then you have the sellers. Hey, you know what? No problem. I'll put it on the MLS. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Let me tell you why I can't do this. What do you mean I can't put my house on this website? Who says this? You don't think an attorney's going to pick that up right away? I don't know why NAR is playing these games. 50% want the clear cooperation be done with anyways. And, another thing too is these big brokers and franchises. But so we talked about how the franchises can take their market share back. Well, now let's deep dive a little bit lower to the local level. A lot of these big brokers that have lost their market share to teams, right? They lost their market share to teams. Well, now, if they have a website, their website that generates buyers, they got a bunch of properties on their website that is going to give the buyers better deals and sellers better deals or better opportunity pre-MLS. Well, that's something the team lead doesn't have. Now, that gives the broker an advantage again, right? That gives a little more power back to the broker, which the teams have taken away. Nobody joins a brokerage anymore. Nobody. They join a team, right? They join a team. People go, you don't see people, what's the number one thing if I'm a new agent? What should I do? You don't see these coaches and top producers saying, oh, go join this company. No, go join this team. Even the MLMs, they say, oh, yeah, go join this company, but join this team, join this downline, right? So, and the reason why they did that is because the teams have been generating the leads all these years because they've been paying the portals. They've been doing the PPC. Well, if you take that power back and you give the local brokers the opportunity to have a quote first look, like, Fannie Mae and Freddie during the REO days. Why can't these brokerages on their website have a 30-day first look that gives an advantage to the buyers, to the sellers? Hey, Mr. Buyer, come to our website first, get a first look at these properties, and this is what we're going to do for you. We're going to buy down your interest rate. We're going to give you a home warranty. We're going to pay for your appraisal. We're going to do this, right? Now, you look at the other end, you're looking at some of these portals and some of these other companies, that buyer's going to that. They're not offering that. In fact, what they're doing is they're charging 20, 30, 40% to the buyer's agent, which now, because the settlement is being passed on to the buyer or seller. Now, how many buyers would hit contact agent if they knew that once they hit contact agent, they could be paying anywhere from 20 to 34% that their buyer's agent has to pay? That's a 30 or 40% that could have been used to buy down the rate or get a better deal on the house.
Yes, dude. God, shit is crazy, isn't it? Did you ever think that you would see the Dayhawks?
Hey, when they agreed to this settlement, they I don't know what they were thinking. They didn't think they should have talked to people in the trenches and saying, hey, if we agree to this, what other issues that it might cause? And I said from day one, it was a trap. Day one.
Yeah. So I want to know too, what's the latest with China?
China. What? Hey, that funny you asked today, right? So a while ago, we were talking about the utter chaos that's going in China. Right now, China is in utter collapse. They don't know what to do. In fact, they did one of the largest stimuluses since 2008. They're so desperate right now because and we can see if people want to see what's going to, how people are going to lose confidence in the dollar in the future. We're far off from that, but this is how it's going to happen. In China, about 18 months ago, we talked about how the high rises, they're bailing out the high rises out there. Those, the ghost cities were filled with what? Ghost apartments. Well, people in China, the middle class and upper middle class, they didn't trust the banks, so they're buying these high rises. Well, the high rises are collapsing. Nobody's buying them. And in some instances, the consumers actually gave money to the developer, and the developer never built the condos, right? Not just a few. So we have billions of dollars. There's 64 million vacant units in China.
Wait, 64 million vacancies, dude? What?
Those are just in the ghost cities. So, and don't forget, the people that bought those, that's their savings. That's not like out here in Vegas and Sacramento when you had a bunch of people buying houses, no money down with the bank's money. No. So they're trying to compare what's going on They're trying to compare what's going on in China to the Great Recession. No, no, no. This is China's Great Depression because these people lost all of their savings, like you just said. It's their savings. So China's in their own Great Depression, and they just did another. So the past 18 months, China's been going down, up, down, up, down, up. Every time they did a stimulus, it would go up a little bit. Now they just brought out the bazooka. They brought out their cash bazooka. China has actually printed money and told like their stockbrokers in that country to start buying their own stock so that it would raise the stock market. Kind of like what they did during the financial crisis here, right? With the TARP and all that. So China's done TARP. They've done all this. And today, it's starting to fall again. Well, their whole monetary system is in jeopardy right now. And you have the younger generation starting to rebel. It's funny because in China, they want to get rid of all this and do a democracy and capitalism. And over here, you got a lot of the younger generation wanting to do socialism and no capitalism. Well, go look on what's going on in China right now. Go look what happened to Venezuela. China is on the same course that what's happened to Japan, right? You have a double whammy. But China is going to do another stimulus. And one of the reasons why our 10-year mortgage rates, our 10-year bonds went up, which caused the mortgage rates to go up, is because people started selling the bonds in the U.S. and they went to buy stocks in China. Why? Because they printed money to buy stocks. They knew it was going to go up. Well, now, even after all that stimulus, the stock market in China is starting to fall back down a little. It's still up from when they printed the money, but now they're saying, hey, we want more money. We want more money. And so now this is the inflection point for China, and it pretty much is going to destroy the middle class because what happened here in the U.S. when they printed money? The rich got richer, the middle class gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and still they haven't taken care of the problem. What are you going to do with the millions of people that took their savings and bought those high rises? Anybody can Google China ghost cities. In fact, China is actually blowing up some of these high rises, just like here in Las Vegas at the Tropicana. They're doing that in China because there's so many vacant high rises that basically it's a huge Ponzi scheme. That's not my opinion. That's even China's opinion now.
Damn, 64 million
vacant units. Yeah, it's just not in China. It's some of these same investors. Google this one in Malaysia when you get a chance. It's the forest. I think it's the forest city in Malaysia. It's crazy. I think like 100 people live there. It's a city. And then in China, you can Google China, London, China, New York. They built these replica cities in China that are completely empty. China, Montana, I've seen this one. I've seen the London one and I've seen the Montana one. You think you're in Montana. It's in China and they built all this stuff to make it look like you're in Montana. It's crazy. I mean, huge. I'm not talking like a hotel. I'm talking like bigger than the Strip. Crazy. And now this is how it did. And don't forget, what did they use to build all these cities and stuff? They use cement, they use material, they use steel, they used all that.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's crazy. That scale of that problem, I didn't even realize it was that many. I thought it was like a tenth of that much, dude.
Yeah, and don't forget all the money they're printing. And here's another thing that China had a problem with. Just like the Fed, when you print that money, even in China's communist controlled economy, they printed that money, gave it to the companies, told them what to do with it, and still that money, all of it didn't go where they wanted it to go. Where's some of that freshly printed money that China printed in the past 2 weeks been going? USA stock market. I mean, look at the stock market's going through the roof. There's all this money being printed. It's not just, we just don't have to look at the central government of the US. We also have to look at the other central governments that are printing money. And what does that tell us? That if China's printing money, what does the U.S. going to do? And that one of the reasons why the Fed dropped a 0.5 point is because to bail out China, U.S. government doesn't want China to collapse overnight. We want to slowly demise because our supply chain would be chaos, right? So they're trying to bail out China by lowering the interest rate here, so people borrow money here and go to buy more assets over in China. So that's
Go
one
buy
reason.
more shit on Temu.
Yeah. And what else does that allow the U.S. federal government to do? It allows them to increase our money supply now, because even though we have 30, 40, 35, $36 trillion in debt, which wasn't supposed to happen in 2035, we are still the cleanest shirt in the area, right? All these other shirts are dirty. Now Jerome Powell has the movement, has the room to print more money and to create more debt to GDP ratio even higher. I think we're at 125 right now, which is the highest since World War II, the highest as World War II. But since the other countries like the second biggest country, China, and then Japan is doing it, Germany's doing it, Canada's printing money. So that allows us to go, oh, these guys can do it? Okay, we're still the safest bet. Now we can do it too. So that means we're going to see more inflation and more asset appreciation in America. We might see, home prices drop in certain areas or even all over the country a little bit. But long term, what do we know when they increase the money supply? Shh. And look at the stock market. The stock market's crazy right now.
Good. I had some losses earlier, so I need some craziness. What do you think interest rates are going to do, Hawks?
Oh, well, that depends on a lot of the factors we just said, right? We should be when you have those fake job numbers come out, right? And we know they're fake job numbers because they've been seasonally adjusted. So if anyone wants to know, how the seasonally adjusted thing works, go Google it. They can seasonally adjust any way they want, right? So if they want to make it good, they seasonally adjust more. Amazing. 250,000 jobs created, huh? And then household survey said that 86% of all the jobs were government related or government jobs. So here's the problem with that. And to your answer on the rates, we know, and anyone with eyes and in the trenches knows that those job numbers aren't real. But the stock market and the bonds, people don't buy those anymore, right? The big funds, they're controlled by algorithms and AI. So the algorithms and AI, they saw those reports that, oh, that's inflationary. That's a great job. GDP's up. GDP's 3%. The economy's doing great. Boom. Let's sell those bonds. You sell the bonds, the rates go up. Well, they're getting bad information, right? But it has to be corrected humanly, and they're not doing that. So that's why we're seeing the rates go up, because the mortgage rate should be closer to 4.5%, 5% based on the true economy. So, I mean, people, and even when the rates were dropping, they were at 6%, you could get 5.9, 5.7. We still weren't seeing a huge surge because those drop in rates didn't compensate for the increase in insurance rates. Insurance through the roof. I'm no one to whine here in Las Vegas when you're in California, but our insurance here is going through the roof.
Dude, all the insurance companies are pulling out of Cali. What are you talking about, right?
They can't afford it. I mean, listen, people, this is what happens when you increase the money supply too quickly, too much. People forget, hey, my insurance went up 30 or 40%. This is crazy. My insurance went up 60%. Whoa. Wait a minute. How much did your house go up?
Yeah, not that much. Yes, it did go up that much, right? Yeah.
It went up 50, 60%. Okay, well, now you're insuring $1 million house down a $500,000 house. Your car, throughout the years, 100 years, you bought a used car for $35,000. 2 years from now, that car is going to be $20,000. So your insurance stays the same or drops. No, not with this bizarre economy. Used cars went up. So now your insurance goes up. So if the car you're driving is going up 35 to 40%, then to repair your cars, that's going up 35 to 40%. Well, what do you think is going to happen? And Vegas has the number 2 highest for car insurance now. So people in Vegas are in shock right now. My friend paying $2,300 every 6 months for a GMC truck, 4 years old. Yeah, no, $2,300 for every 6 months. October 1, it goes up to $4,000. And the insurance companies in Vegas, in Nevada, actually. They all went to Carson City to get another increase. And these insurance companies are like, here you go. Here's how much we make. Here's how much we charge. Here's our expenses. We can't survive without this rate increase. You don't have a choice. It's not like they're being corporate greed or whatever. And then my other friend was trying to get insurance on his house, a 1996 house. Well, I can't remember who it was. It was one of the largest insurance companies in the country. I can't remember which one it was. It was one of them, and they are not insuring any homes in Las Vegas anymore built before the year 2000. And what do we have here? We don't have fires. We don't have tornadoes. Knock, knock. We don't have earthquakes. Yeah. Well, so I talked to my insurance people, and they're like, listen, Vegas, we've been spoiled. Homes were usually new out here. Well, the insurance companies are starting to realize, these houses that didn't cost us any money the past 10, 15, 20 years are now having leaks. The pipes are leaking. The PVC pipes are leaking. For years, most houses were less than 20 years in Vegas. Now they're hitting that 20-year, 30-year mark. And now the repair costs on these houses are going through the roof, right? There's damages, stuff happening, stuff like that. So that's why, that's one of the reasons why insurance is going up. Now, it's not going up like California, but when your payment out here in Vegas is $1,500 and your insurance goes up another $150, $200, that's a big deal out here in Las Vegas, especially for people that bought their houses in between 2010 and 2019. That the houses were anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000. Now they're $400,000 to $800,000, right? So you got the property taxes. So that's a double whammy.
Good, dude. How does an agent or a real estate professional win in this market?
Well, all the new ones are winning, right? They're out there hitting it. Don't let all this settlement stuff. Just go back to the basics. If someone wants to buy a house, someone wants to see a house, show it to them, write it up, put the commission in the contract, and close the deal. Take advantage. Learn how to take advantage of all these new things that are going on, there's new, processes. And I mean, when you ask what agent, it also depends what MLS are you in, right? Because some of these agents have different forms, and it's crazy. Like I said, we're fortunate in Vegas. Our form committee did a phenomenal job. So in Vegas, it's pretty easy. You put the commissions on the contract, no big deal. That's not the issue out here in Vegas at all. The issue out here is just like where does everybody else? The buyers want that $500,000 house for $450,000, and the sellers want that $500,000 house. They want $550,000, right? Nobody wants $500,000 for the $500,000 house.
Yes, exactly. That's so funny. Steve, if somebody wants to chat with you more or send you a referral in Las Vegas, how do they find you? Or follow you on social media, which they should.
Yeah, just you keep up with all the stuff we're talking about too. My Instagram is Hawks_Steve. And I'm putting a lot of that information on the Instagram. It's a good way to get out there. So,
dude, your content is so freaking good, bro.
Thank you.
It is so good. Do you ever see my content?
I love it. You see me.
Yeah, you do. Thank you. Yeah. We at least watch each other's. At least we know that we have one person watching it, right? Yeah.
The only thing you're missing is the crown.
Good, dude. Well, thanks so much for...
What? You got 2 minutes? You got 3 minutes?
Yeah.
One thing we've been talking about here, I haven't really, but this is the first place we're really going to discuss it. Some of these what brokers are starting to realize now and panic about is the buyer broker agreements, right? Because they're leading to other potential lawsuits. And that's not my opinion anymore. I think NAR has been watching my Instagram, right? Because I told them to watch out for the buyer broker agreement is going to lead to discrimination lawsuits. Likely, nothing for sure. There's a good chance that the buyer broker agreements are going to lead to discrimination lawsuits. As soon as these lawyers get paid and the treasure chest is filled up again, we're going to see more lawyers coming more at it and more regulation, just like we saw in California at the buyer broker agreement limit. So the buyer broker agreement, the way it sits right now, that you can't put a range in there, right? I've seen coaches and team leaders and brokers telling their agents, hey, the best thing to do with this buyer broker agreement is get as much possible commission as you can per person. Well, here's a problem with that, folks. That's going to be the next video for the discrimination, because how are you going to how are you going to justify, wait a minute, that person you charge 2, that person you charge 3, that person you charge 2.5? Well, why? Why? We know what environment we're in right now. We know that's going to happen down the road. This is why on the buyer broker agreement, they should have let us put a range in, or completely get rid of the buyer broker agreement and just put the commissions on the contract. That way, every time you charge a commission, you're not charging based on a person that you don't even do the buyer broker agreement until you meet and see. Now you're charging the commission based on the situation. You know what? This time on this house, I charged 3. On this one, I charged 2.5. On this one, I charged 1. This one, I charged 2. It's the same buyer, different houses, different situations. Because if not, there's a highly likelihood chance that we're going to have attorneys that come in and say, wait a minute, my buyer was charged 2.5. Well, these buyers were charged 1.5. Yeah, but it was a different situation because those people just want to see 3 houses. Oh, no, that doesn't matter. Well, to me and you, it matters, but to the way the legal system works or the way everything is going right now, that's going to lead to more litigation, more lawsuits. And you know what? Just a few days ago, NAR just said, and this new CEO, I mean, I think she's pretty good. I think I changed my mind. In the beginning, I thought, why are you hiring someone who has no real estate experience, from what I understand? But we need an outsider to start waking everybody up. She is now talking about they are now looking into and risk assessing potential lawsuits that might happen from the current settlement. So now they've realized, oh, wait a minute. This could be a trap, and this could cause more litigation, more problems if we do this settlement, if we do these BBAs, just like it's saying, hey, the BBA should have a range. You shouldn't be saying, this is what I'm going to charge you. And guess what? What if you charge that other person different? What if it's a different situation? Well, you're going to have to explain that. And these brokers are starting to realize, oh, no. And we don't have to think this is going to happen. One of the largest portals in the country already settled a multi-million-dollar lawsuit because they were given different rebates based on different areas. Well, it wasn't because of the person. It was because that house was 800. That house was 300. Well, how can I give the same amount of money? It's a different price. Oh, no. You got to do the same amount. Doesn't matter. Well, we're already seeing people on social media say, yeah, I charged this person 4% because it was $200,000 house, and this one was 1.5 because it was $1 million house. We're already seeing people do that. Well, hey, we didn't have to worry about this pre-settlement, but post-settlement, now that's probably going to be an issue. And it looks like NAR is looking into this, and they might curb this before we have more allegations like that coming down the pipeline.
Wow. Dude, I'm glad you told me that. That's crazy too. Shit.
The other thing that they're probably looking at too now, I think we've already discussed this, is post-settlement, if, a lot of coaches and brokers are telling their agents to call and see how much commission they can get. Well, look up commercial bribery, because now realtors can be accused of possibly commercial bribery because, these lawyers are going to come up with anything, right? We're targets now. So look at all this. And this wasn't my thing. I didn't even know what commercial bribery was until I started reading and doing research on it, because these attorneys were talking about realtors doing it. Well, when you call a realtor and say, hey, I want 3 points. Okay. I see your house is 300,000. My buyer wants to do 290. Well, no, you give me 310. I'll get you the commission you want. Well, that could be construed as commercial bribery because I am not representing my buyer. I am more telling my buyer to do this much so I can get this much. That has to be disclosed to the buyer with the commercial bribery. And that's a little down the line, not as problematic as the discrimination one. But when you Google commercial bribery in California, it kind of explains that stuff. And attorneys were talking about it because the agents were getting on social media and saying, yeah, call the listing agent, tell them you're not going to show the house, and else you get a certain amount of commission. Well, that has to be disclosed to the buyer, folks, and obviously no one's going to disclose it. And we didn't have this problem before the settlement. I didn't have to, I would never call a listing agent and say, hey, pay this much and I'll come show their house. It was already in the MLS, right? So we didn't have that issue. This is how, in NAR, the new CEO is looking at it, looking at, I'm sure, a lot of these things, but it was Inman News that they're starting to look at these possible problems from the settlement like that we never had to worry about before.
Dude, so much stuff. Well, everybody out there watching and listening, go follow the Hawks. Go follow Steve Hawks. Learn all this stuff. It's where I get my knowledge. And if you got something out of this episode, go watch the other episodes that Steve did on us. There's been a couple others. Go put Steve's name in YouTube. You'll find all kinds of great educational content. So he's out there. If you got something out of this, like and share with a friend. If you want more information about the Reside platform, check out resideplatform.com. And we'll see you in the next episode of the podcast.